On March 27th, Journey Together, our first main set of 2025, will release in Pokemon TCG Live. It marks the beginning of the I block of cards, with the new gimmick for this year being Trainers Pokemon. Interestingly, Journey Together doesn't feature any Terra Pokemon, Stellar Terra Pokemon, Ace Specs, Future Pokemon, or Ancient Pokemon, meaning pretty much every gameplay mechanic from the first 2 years of Scarlet and Violet is gone, replaced solely with those Trainers Pokemon. This preview I'm doing for Journey Together will cover the 100 cards just revealed from Japan's Battle Partners set, which comes out on January 24th. Our Journey Together set will have 159 cards in the main set and over 180 cards overall, including 4 Trainers Pokemon EX plus 16 Pokemon EX. While this might sound like great news, the numbers are inflated because the Pokemon Company is adding leftover cards from 2024 Japanese starter decks. This means cut cards from Prismatic Evolutions like Blaziken EX and Lilligant should be included, even though they'll have an H legality marker in the bottom left despite Journey Together being the start of the I block. What it means for you is that of the 150 or so new cards in Journey Together, only about 100 will be new, and the rest will be mostly unplayable garbage. Because of Trainers Pokemon, my preview will be a little different. Instead of going in chronological order or by card type, I'll be going by trainer since each trainer's cards combo together. And for those wondering, something like N Zorua can only evolve into an N Zoroark or N Zoroark EX. It can't evolve into a regular Zoroark. This will definitely create some confusing situations for new players, but for the cool people who watch my videos, you'll be prepped and ready to go. Let's get started with Hop, the best of the trainers with translations via Pokebeach and proxies via Pokemon Proxies and Justin Basil. There's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Hop, and it starts with Zacian EX. For a single colorless energy, Zacian does 30 to their active and 30 to one of their bench Pokemon. With Manaphy rotating out of standard, hitting the bench is a thing again, unless they're a Terra Pokemon. So that means you can Iron Bundle their Badoo to the bench and essentially get a free prize. But 30 to their active is fairly weak, so let's change that. Hop's Snorlax, Hop's Choice Band, and Postwick all boost the damage Hop's Pokemon deal by 30, and Choice Band has the added benefit of reducing their attack cost by 1 colorless energy. While Snorlax doesn't stack, that still turns Zacian into a Pokemon that does 120 to their active and 30 to the bench for as little as 0 energy. Pair it with Dusclops and Dusknoir and you can really shorten games and win before they have a chance to do anything. Alternatively, you can use Zacian with our Chaladon EX as the energy accelerator, allowing Brave Slash to deal 330 damage for 3 metal energy. But that's not all. Hop also gets access to Double and Cramorant. When you evolve into Double, it's a free Gust. I don't think it's good enough to play outside of like a 1-1 line because its attack sucks even with the buffs, but Gust is Gust. And then there's Cramorant. Similar to Baby Buzzwole from Forbidden Light, it does 120 damage for a single energy, but only when they have 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. Use Snorlax, Choice Band, and Postwick, that's 210 damage for free on a single prizer. On the less exciting side, Sandaconda and Corviknight don't have enough to offer. While you always have that potential 90 damage boost and 1 energy cost reduction, I just don't think they're worth playing over Zacian and Snorlax. Just like when I'm talking about the little piggies, I saved the best for last. Remember Battle VIP Pass? Hop gets that, except for the entire game. Play Hop's Bag, slap down any 2 basic Hop's Pokemon onto your bench. As you'll slowly learn during this preview, Journey Together is fairly underwhelming, but a Hop deck is shaping up to be highly competitive. What gets N's PP up? Ferris wheels. When N Zoroark EX was first revealed, we thought it was going to be insane. Then the rest of N's Pokemon were revealed and, well, it isn't. Still, the ability is Zoroark GXs again, allowing you to discard a card from your hand to draw 2 cards. Then for 2 Darkness Energy, you can copy the attack of any of your benched N's Pokemon. While Dark Patch is rotating, you will have access to N's PP up, which accelerates any energy from the discard pile to one of your benched N's Pokemon. So energy won't be a problem. And thanks to N's Castle, retreating will be a breeze. That means it's all up to the attacks you can copy. Unfortunately, it's an underwhelming bunch. Darmanitan's great if you only face the Rule Edge EX, dealing 30 damage for each energy in your opponent's discard pile. Otherwise, even if you hit all 4 Crushing Hammer, that's just 120 damage, and the second attack of 90-90 leaves much to be desired. Reshiram is good if you use Survival Brace or Hero's Tape on Zoroark EX to survive a hit, then retaliate for double the damage counters, except we're in a world of Pokemon taking big one-shots. Purloin is a control attack, while Joltik can be funny, but it'll only work once. And for those wondering, no, there isn't an N's Liepard or N's Galvantula. Sigilif, meanwhile, is a fun card, letting you win the game if you get down to 1 prize. But as I'm looking at all of N's Pokemon coming in Journey Together, I can't help but be massively disappointed. While Hop and N have quite a few Pokemon to choose from, Ino gets just 6. Luckily, they're all good and create a shockingly good combo. The main attackers here are Voltorb and Bellibolt EX. Voltorb does 20 base damage plus 20 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Ionos Pokemon. You'll need 15 to do some real damage, which might seem crazy until you read Bellibolt's ability. As often as you like during your turn, attach a lightning energy from your hand to one of your Ionos Pokemon. That's absolutely insane! For a continuous card draw, there's Kilowattrel, which discards a lightning energy from your hand to draw you up to 6. And to get that energy back into your hand, there's Lavincia, which lets you recover 2 lightning energy. So unlike a typical lightning deck that wants electric generator, this Ino deck, and yes, that's how you pronounce it according to the anime, prefers superior energy retrieval. The only other noteworthy Ionos Pokemon is Electrode. It basically knocks itself out to give you a chance to KO your opponent's active. If we get a coin reflip card at any point, it's a meme. Otherwise, it's fairly useless. While you could build a solo Ino deck, it's better to use them as partners for Raging Bolt EX. Removing the need for Ogerpon and Grass Energy, Raging Bolt now only needs Lightning and Fighting Energy plus Bellibolt and Energy Switch. You do lose some of that turn 1 explosiveness, but Ino could help make the Giraffe Dragon even better post-rotation. Lily gets kinda shafted when it comes to new cards, only having access to 5. On the bright side, there is a combo where you can use her Rabombi to force them to bench Pokemon from your hand, thus building up the damage Clefairy EX deals, which does 20 times the number of bench Pokemon in play. Basically, for those going through Raikou V or Hentai V withdrawal post-rotation, this is your new best friend. On top of that, Lily's Pearl gives them 1 less prize card if the Lily's Pokemon it's attached to is knocked out by damage. So in a lot of cases, Clefairy will give up just 1 prize card. Problem is, that's it for Lily's cards. There is a Comfey that fills up your bench with Lily's Pokemon, but if you're not running Lily's Clefairy EX with Area Zero and Lily's Pearl, you're not playing a Lily deck. As for the rest of the set, let's look at the EX Pokemon. Volcanion has a fairly useless attack, dealing 160 damage for 3 energy and moving an energy to one of your bench Pokemon. The ability is what makes it interesting. If it's in the active, you can burn your opponent's active. So that's a guaranteed 20 damage during Pokemon checkup, and if they don't flip heads, the burn remains. It's also getting a partner in Magmortar, which increases burn damage by 3 damage counters, and it stacks. So if you have 4 Magmortar in play, burn does 140 damage each Pokemon checkup. My biggest gripe is, what next? You do all this work, but Volcanion's not your attacker. Magma Basin is gone with rotation, so you need somebody else. You could make a modified hit and run deck with Mimikyu, but you'd need to have Latios EX on the field, giving them another 2 prizer to boss up and KO. Instead, I think you ignore the Magmortar. With Radiant Sneasler out of standard, Volcanion EX could take its place, guaranteeing an extra 20 damage each turn. You'll still need to play Latios EX to retreat it, but in a post-rotation deck that runs Brute Bonnet and the Petulant, Volcanion could help you get some donks. Or at the very least, you can put it into any basic heavy deck and deal 20 bonus damage for very little effort. If Mamoswine EX was releasing right now, it'd be in a pretty great spot. We currently have Luxray, Empoleon, and Gengar as Stage 2 Pokemon that all put themselves directly into play. Unfortunately, Mamoswine releases on the same day as Rotation, which removes all F-block cards from Standard. So the only one we'll have left is Paldea Evolve Luxray, which requires you to be behind on prizes to put itself on the bench. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. With 4 Stage 2 Pokemon on the bench, Pidgeot EX will be huge here. Mamoswine is dealing 340 damage for 2 fighting energy, enough to KO everything. Problem is, it requires 2 fighting energy, which isn't the easiest to pull off. Still, with an ability that just grabs you any Pokemon, Mamoswine should have some potential come Journey together. Salamence EX could have been an option for Regidrago V-Star. Instead, it's a Stage 2 with a 3 energy attack cost that spreads 50 to all of their bench Pokemon. Kinda meh. And 300 damage for 4 energy, discarding 2 in the process is too awkward, even with Crispin. Yeah, Dragapult EX only does 200 damage, but it can do that for as little as 1 energy thanks to Sparkling Crystal, making it a much better Dragon option. Unless we get crazy Dragon support in the future, Salamence will be about as playable as every other Salamence ever printed. Oh, and I included Druddigon here, and this will be the last time you ever see or hear about this card. Finally, we have the Dunsparce EX. For a single colorless energy, it does 60 damage times the number of Pokemon EX your opponent has in play. With Bibarel rotating, there's a decent chance the Dunsparce becomes a good new draw engine. If that's the case, include a single copy of the EX in your deck. Now you have an easy way to take big KOs against EX heavy decks. So if your opponent ever has a Dunsparce on the field, don't think it can't beat you off. Shifting to the non-EX Pokemon, they're more disappointing than getting socks for Christmas. While Butterfree could be really good if we get a coin reflip card, it's too inconsistent to be anything. Excelgor has a chance to be a hit and run deck, as you can use Klefki or Iron Thorns to shut off Latios, preventing basic Pokemon from simply retreating. But Confusion is a coin flip, so you'll have to get lucky. Still, if I know anything about For the Win, it's that he's already cooking up a list for this. The new Meowstarada might seem familiar. That's because its ability is almost the exact same as Decky Dewey EX's, except worse. If Meowstarada is on the bench, you can put it in the active. Then if your opponent's active is an EX, it deals 180 damage for 2 colorless energy. But we're losing Double Turbo and Gardenia with rotation, so you'll need a reversal or a basic plus counter gain. It's just too much work for a card that isn't very good. To highlight just how bad Journey Together will be, here's Articuno. It can attach energy to itself with its first attack, then deal 110 damage with its second. Or how about Octillery? You can maybe control their energy, but probably not, or you can deal 0 damage for 3 energy because this set has so many freaking coin flip cards you'd think it's TCG Pocket. Ludicolo probably won't see play. Unlike Kricketune, which only boosts grass-type Pokemon hit points by 40, Ludicolo gives all of your Pokemon plus 40 HP, though it doesn't stack. But it's a stage 2. And when have you ever seen somebody use Kricketune successfully? We'll have to wait and see how the post-rotation meta shakes out, but I doubt Ludicolo will be a thing. I almost skipped over Wailord. Its attack is fine, dealing 10 plus 50 more for each water energy attached to it. If you're making a single prize backed Caliber deck, it could be a thing, especially since it has access to Heavy Baton. Though that would only save 3 of the 7 energy required to one-shot a Charizard. But then I noticed how thick it was and got excited. This freaking thing has 240 hit points. Attach a Luxurious Cape or Hero's Cape, now it's at 340. Or just use a Rigid Band and it effectively has 270. While it is an energy eater, if Wailord can simply survive a hit, all of a sudden it becomes a pretty good candidate for a road deck. If you think the Pokemon Company cares for us in any capacity, think again. Not only can Badoo and Banette EX item lock us, but with the new Banette, they can Xerosic your entire hand down to 3 cards, then force you to shuffle all 3 of those cards into your deck, leaving you with nothing, just like my ex-wife did to me. Thankfully, Xerosic has never materialized as a highly playable card, but the combo exists, so if you ever see a Shuppet, knock it out immediately. Or just, have a Mew EX in play. Talk about wasted potential. Yes, 280 damage for 2 Psychic Energy is powerful, especially when Xatu exists, but the new Metagross has no synergy with the old Metang, as it only accelerates Metal Energy. So you have to rely on the new Metagross line, which all suck, and guarantee that you have a Beldum and Metang on your bench at all times in order to do that 280. This is absolutely going to be a road deck that I make a video on when I run out of ideas, but if it paired at all with the old line, like using colorless energy instead of psychic, it could have been a potentially real deck. Instead, it's just a much worse Conkeldurr. While this Clefairy is one of the greatest arts in Pokemon card history, the attacks suck. And Regirock isn't any better. Like, I get that not every card in a set can be good, but it's like they didn't even try to appeal to competitive players. Speaking of, when's the last time anyone has ever used a card featuring an attack that requires that same Pokemon to have attacked the previous turn? Exactly, never. Weezing will be a bulk card, same with Pangoro. Remember what I said earlier about the Pokemon Company not caring about us? The new Tyranitar is constant item locked when it's in the active spot. While not nearly as powerful as the old X and Y Vileplume, since Tyranitar can be dusted out of the active, shutting off items is going to be a real concern post-rotation. Plus, Tyranitar deals 150 damage and discards the top 2 cards of their deck for a reversal energy. Furthermore, there's a bunch of other Tyranitar in Standard, like a weirdly high amount. But the new one is probably the best. Just keep in mind that Dark Patch is rotating, so you will need reversal energy or Crispin or counter gain to properly stomp on someone's cracked. I know we're kind of mired in a dry spell of good cards to talk about in Journey Together, but Tyranitar at least has a chance to impact the meta. Then there's Magearna. Healing typically isn't all that great considering we have so many Pokemon that can one-shot, but if you are building a healing deck, Magearna's a great choice. If it's in the active and you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, you heal 90 damage from it. Since it can take advantage of Rescue Board and Latios EX, it's not a big commitment like marrying the first woman you play Pokemon cards with only to find out later she prefers Digimon, but the fact it's not POF and searchable does suck. Finally, how about more unplayable junk? Even if Noivern can attack for free, 110 and Confusion isn't getting it done. And Komala does what you expect, putting both active Pokemon to sleep and sucking. Now to the trainers. Super Potion is back after not being seen since the X and Y days. And to make sure an unplayable card from the previous decade is playable in 2025, they changed absolutely nothing. Yeah, this will be thrown in the bulk drawer and forgotten about. With the losses of Heavy Ball and Arsephone, we're going to be interacting with our prize cards less post-rotation. Enter Exchange Ticket. A better Rotom deck that takes all of your remaining prize cards and puts them on the bottom of your deck. Then you take that many cards from the top of your deck and place them in the prizes. At worst, it's protection against horrible prizes. At best, you can use it with Academy at Night or Cypher Maniac to try and cheese extra prizes with Chansey. I doubt it'll see too much play, but it's still a useful card. And anyone who plays PTCGO regularly should think about adding it because the game will always prize what you need. Iris's Fighting Spirit forces you to discard a card from your hand, then draws you up to 6. Certain decks will have a use for it, I'm sure, but it is worse than INO and Professor's Research. That being said, if we don't get a reprint of INO or Research before the next rotation in March 2026, Iris could end up being our best draw supporter. And I wouldn't be against that. It's a balanced card requiring you to make decisions on when to play it and what to discard. Until that hypothetical situation, expect it to be a B-tier draw supporter. These two wish they were B-tier. Ruffian is a guaranteed discard of a tool and special energy. Lost Vacuum's rotating, so tools will become more powerful post-rotation, but we have Jamming Tower to shut them off. And we have Enhanced Hammer for special energy. Stall or control decks will probably include a copy of Ruffian, but for normal people like you and me, it's entirely forgettable. Just like Brock Stouting. Yes, it's versatile and can grab you either any 2 basic Pokemon or any 1 evolution Pokemon, but I think even a brand new player can tell you this isn't very good. Just use Nest Ball or Buddy Buddy Poffin or Precious Trolley to get basics and Ultra Ball for evolutions. And don't forget that Lumineon V is rotating. So even if you play 1 copy of Brock, how are you going to get it when you need it? Pidgeotty X? I mean, that already gets you an evolution with its ability. I saved Lycanroc for the end because it's the only card that pairs with Spike Energy. Upon evolution, you can attach 2 Spike Energy from your discard pile directly to it. And its attack does 40 base damage plus 40 more for each damage counter on their active for 3 colorless energy. So once Lycanroc gets up and running, it just kinda works. But Spike Energy is only a Rocky Helmet, dealing 2 damage to your opponent's Pokemon if the wearer is hit with an attack. I absolutely see the path to making this a road deck with Uxie or Frostlass. But like most of the other non-EX, non-trainers Pokemon in Journey Together, a road deck is about as good as it can hope for. As a reminder, this was just a preview of the 100 cards in Japan's Battle Partners set, which will make up the majority of our Journey Together set, which is out on March 27th. The rest will be leftovers from Japanese starter decks released last year, with cards like Blaziken EX and Lilligant likely being included. If you want my early thoughts on Journey Together, it's a massive disappointment. Hop seems like a strong new archetype, and INO can help Raging Bolt and maybe be a thing on its own, but everything else seems underwhelming. We're only a few days away from Japan getting these cards and undergoing standard rotation, so stay tuned for more previews about what our new format will look like at the end of March. Until then, let me know your thoughts on Journey Together. Am I underselling certain cards? Or am I a genius that should be showered in both praise and gold?